second here. Because we should be going live any second. Whatever. Alright, so we're live. We're watching Sovereign of Subways, round 3. Code Marvelous on the left and Netjogging on the right. And I've got the pleasure of having Netjogging on with me on comms alongside Zach Webster to commentate this match and give us the kind of inside scoop, because the camera is not the best, to say the least.
Well, thanks for having me aboard.
Yeah, thanks for agreeing to come on.
Right. Yeah. What's up, everybody? Really? So I wanted to have Zach on this call because he pretty much built these decks. I made a couple little changes. Also, when we were testing, not only for the Nisei Standard Tournament about a week before, but also for this, he would always be the guy to just like call out my misplays and tell me that I could have won the game, see those lines when I couldn't even. So I thought it would be good to have him tell me how I could have won every game.
Well, I feel a bit ambushed now coming onto this call, as I didn't know I did that, so I apologize, Josh.
No, it's good. I like it, man. I mean, that's what you want, right?
And my credentials for being on here, I feel as though are a bit misled. I did not build that Wu deck. That is Avram Jop's Wu deck. So that is just the list taken from there, as far as I know, more or less, with just a few small changes, I think.
Yeah, that Wu Rivard.
Tremendous amount of credit to him. So, but that, and as far as the Titan list, that is actually again a few small changes, a derivative of Andre Nielsen, fantastic player, in competitor, I believe, but just a really proficient Titan player. Fantastic. So,
yeah.
But happy to be here nonetheless, and I'll try to contribute what I can.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than just me talking at an audience, which I kind of love. I love the fact that I figured this out and got this set up to have like other people on here with me, so I'm not just a crazy person talking into a mic at whatever time for no reason. But this, the Arovar Wu deck is actually what we're going to end up seeing second. But that came out of nowhere and really just wrecks things if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah, it's certainly a very powerful deck, and it was a deck prior to for a little while, but it was MTI or Mati that really kept it in check, and then with that going by the wayside, gave an opportunity for the deck to come out and shine a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So we have Dan on 419 on the left, and Netjogging on Titan on the right. Looks like Dan kept an opening hand of what looks to be 2 crowdfundings plus other stuff, which definitely good. We can't really see Netjogging's hand.
So Josh, how did you find the deck on today? I understand this is being round 3, so you've already played a couple rounds with it. Yeah, I guess Josh is having some troubles then.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I was gonna say this
silence.
Insightful silence.
Indeed.
If there's one thing you're gonna notice, it's that I have a headband on. It was very hot.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you were on the top tables, it was a significant disadvantage because it was the loudest part in the room and also the warmest.
Yeah.
So you're gonna hear me ask my teammates for advice. I was on team Internet Dogging with Internet and Dogs, who is Ethan. So I was just asking them for help a lot. I think we're starting off with the Titan game.
Mm-hmm.
I held this hand. I think just because I scored a hostile first turn, then there was ice to prevent like doof or something.
And Dan here is playing 419, correct?
Yes.
He's playing a Nexus 419 build. Is that
Right.
okay?
So immediately I'm thinking like it's Nexus or it's Apocalypse, and it's another reason why I want that ice. It turns out that he's not on Nexus.
He's
Yeah,
not.
that was his big spice of the tournament. Actually, was while all the other 419s are on Nexus, he was just reg crim, and he was taking advantage of the fact that everybody was thinking it would be a lot of Nexus and it would be slow for him to just ram through and be very fast. Also, this card that has the huge glare on it right on top of his ID is a Rizeki,
Okay.
which also was a spicy include of his, because I guess he has more influence because he's not running the
So Josh,
Nexus.
were you kind of clued that it was probably not going to be an APOC deck then, with the installation
Yeah.
of that early
Once he lays down Rizeki, I'm thinking, oh, it's Nexus, and he just like spends the Deuce's influence or something. I didn't really realize there was no Nexus until pretty late. I don't know. I mean, like the Titan deck is just so fast that like he's setting up drip economy, and it's like I don't know if I really care, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Afshar is your only ice here. Have you, from what you recall, did you have additional ice that were available before this Mausolus, or was it that?
I don't
you
think I
just
did,
found
to
it?
be honest. I kept the hostel and the ice for HQ. I'm pretty comfortable leaving R&D open or like one central, and just like going fast.
I think that's a fair. 419. You don't have the threat of Leela bounce, so your ice is stable once it's there. These crim decks frequently don't have too much in the way of multi-access. They either have like one Stargate or a couple turning wheels, so these singles are going to be their primary pressure unless they are at one or two copies of that they're in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a decent call as far as leaving that exposed for a little bit of time, especially with the scoring pressure that you have and the pressure that they're under to set up. On a slower build to be with Nexus, then I think that's even call to be making. So yeah, seems like a good decision.
Yeah. He also quickly installs these 3 crowdfundings all at once, which means they're all going to tick down at once. So my hope is that there's a turn where he doesn't run 3 times. All the crowdfundings are in the bin, and the top deck that you just saw was consulting. So we're going to see the fruits of that, but I'm just kind of waiting. His main economy is Rizeki, which is too slow, but 3 crowdfundings is a lot of money. Like, it's very hard to hard-hitting news him when that's happening. So I'm going to try to lock down these crowdfundings. I've also scored all the hostels. I had an Atlas taken, but once I've scored 3 points, I'm fine with losing 1 Atlas.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. With the 3 points, then you only need 4 other points. So the chain is not broken, so to speak.
Right. The only downside about that much bad publicity is that he's got Turning Wheel. It's that card with the hole right below his ID. And he can just lose the bad pub off of the Afshar. But he is running through Mausolus every once in a while and hard clearing the tag. But that process is slow, right?
I mean, that's have as far as sheer click taxing. Luckily for Dan, though, offset by the presence of those 3 crowdfundings, going back to your earlier point, just a lot of money and just not a lot of time devoted to him, especially once he gets the curve them, and it's even, just less time that he has to devote to that. So pressure that would otherwise be a combat and Afshar on HQ, that tax, and then the Mausolus, really mitigated by his between the Rizeki and the 3 crowdfundings. So.
Yeah, it looks like.
What's your strategy from here? I'm sorry, Josh. As far as do you have the fast advance tools in hand already? From what you.
I don't exactly remember. I'm pretty sure it's the classic thing with this deck that you kind of have like a lot of. I think there's like 25 operations in the deck, so a lot of times you have either hard hitting news tools or you have fast advanced pieces. And with 3 Audacity, if you use it, you're going to sacrifice whatever you're not going to commit to, right? I think that second install on the board is Turtle. So I actually, at this point, consider paying the 419 tax. So I think at this point, he's just got so much money. I'm fine with fast advancing out. But I think most of my hand right now is a little bit useless. I think it's like 2 economic warfares. I'm asking a teammate about something. I don't exactly remember. I think it's that decision. It's like, are you going to commit to hard-hitting news? He's got money, but it would slow him down. Or do you try to sacrifice your entire hand to Audacity?
I actually don't think that's a turtle. I think that the card above his stack is the atlas that he took from you in the very beginning.
Oh, okay.
I think the only program he has is the Rizaki that's dripping.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right. That's definitely the atlas there. Yeah, good catch.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Yeah, so you see me not care and just flip over that ice. What were you going to say, Zach?
This was the turn you were talking about right here. You put the second ice on R&D in preparation of those crowdfundings going off. They just did. Now Dan has the pressure of having additional cards in hand that he wants to play in order to not lose them. And now you have a good ETR right here on the R&D that blocks that run with the Sandstone. So Dan's gonna be tough with a bit of a fork here between the direct crowdfundings off runs and then the number of cards that he has in hand that he wants to play out. Now you have this opportunity to land this consulting that you were talking about. So
Yep.
yeah, that was a nice time to Sandstone. So
right, and nobody puts you on lockdown in this deck. Like, I caught so many people, and it's just such a flexible card in this deck. Why did you choose to include it, Zach?
well, I really like Lockdown just for the ability to hamper Clot. That's you're going to be having some real troubles with that angle of attack if they have if they're just because they don't have to commit to Clot early. They can just wait. If they wait, then you're going to be stuck with some awkward situations, especially if you're forced to go in on hostile takeover and too big to fails. Because one of the things about this Titan is that if I recall correctly, there's no hedge funds, right? So it's just the economic advantage that you try and leverage is between those economic warfares and the too big to fails and the hostile takeovers. So you're taking to actually generate money in a deck outside of like Hordem and Mausolus and incidental money like that. So that in mind, then the Arc Lockdown, once they get the BP going, dealing with the Clot or trying to deal with it is going to be a hurdle you're going to have to jump over at some point against a lot of decks. So, but incidentally, it also hits the crowdfunding, which you saw application here, which was nice. You can just randomly delay them long enough that you get a couple scores and that you're able to win. So if you deal with like a extra or something, which is nice. That won me a game in the this Nisei tournament. That all on Nisei tournament was Arcing a Black Orchestras. That bought me enough time to win. But Arc Lockdown, like you said, it's pretty flexible and it just has some uses like that, so it's nice. So you find similar use throughout the day with the Arc Lockdown, getting a variety of things to help the game plan progress? More insightful silence from Josh here.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. It's like you said, that's all 3 factions, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're facing Anarch or Shaper with Clot or crowdfunding in Criminal. Like, it always has a use. It's just about finding the time to use it. And with Consulting Visit in the deck, you are able to lock down when it's most convenient to you.
yeah, that is a boon that Wayland has. Is it's able to run that tutor one-offs that are otherwise very niche and situational calls. So
And so it looks like Dan just installed a no one home. And so if you're on the hard-hitting kill plan, how much does that mess you up?
Right. So consulting visit for the ARC lockdown that happened, and then my third click was the hard hitting news. And I know he had enough money with the drip, but it would have slowed him down. So Alex told me, internet, to just do it, and he installed a Citadel. Now I think he like kept one tag or two tags or something. I might have drawn to see if I got boom. And then I trashed the Citadel. His next was clear the remaining tags, put the no one home down. At this point, I'm off the kill plan, right? Because hard hitting newsing past a no one home, it's just like you have biotic in the deck. Your money has better uses at that point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're killing. You're trashing the Citadel, Josh. Given that you didn't draw the kill card there, turn to clear the tags. On Nexus, do you leave the Citadel and just vacate your actually go in on kill, do you think? Or do you leave out, or do you still trash the Citadel, you think, if you know he's not on Nexus?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And that's like part of the reason I wanted you on this call is like trashing the Citadel was a mistake, right? But I was thinking like you force him to have. Right.
If you think he's on Nexus, it's an opportunity that doesn't come up too often during games. Like frequently, there are opportunities throughout a game against Titan that the 419 Nexus player has to expose themselves. A little trashing, but they do run 3, so that's kind of the give and take there. That's pretty interesting to match up. If you are found out prior to the game or just judged him not to be on Nexus, do you think he would leave the Citadel? I guess that's the question. So.
Yeah. I chose to trash it, just to kind of like give him one more chance, and he did. He put down that no one home. He's got the turtle down. Like at this point, I don't have fast advanced pieces in hand, so you actually see me use the red level just to draw and gain a click to see if I can get anything going. My credits are also low. I happen to draw exactly into dedication ceremony, so I can, with the click gain, score out the new construction by installing it, advancing it, and then dedicating the reconstruction contract.
Nice.
That little combo blew me away the first time I saw it. Honestly, I was watching. I was on JNet. And I was watching somebody do it, and I was like, "What? How? That's a 4-2, and you're scoring it? How? What?"
Right.
And now it's just like a staple in Titan because it just makes use of the Rococo in something other than like advancing out in Atlas, and that's amazing.
And that's why I love the deck that Zach sent me, right? This Titan. It's so flexible. Because of the consulting visit, you have the hard hitting, you have the fast advance. I actually cut one of the 3 hard hittings to fit in a red level clearance. Now, most of the Titans going around right now are on only biotic and red level. I really like having that dual threat. But you just saw it right here. Like red level's a very flexible card with consulting or Atlas. And it enabled me to draw, get what I needed, and then still fast advance out in the same turn. You do sacrifice a little bit on the kill plan, but I figured with consulting visit, you could find the hard hitting when you wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds completely reasonable. Red level clearance is another really flexible card.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you on 1 hard hitting then? Is that the?
So the deck is 2 hard hitting, 1 biotic, 1 red level, 1 arc lockdown. What else am I missing, Zach?
You're on GFIs, right?
Yeah, global food.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it can just do everything. It's very much a YOLO deck, but it's just so flexible.
Mm-hmm.
I really love it. I think it's great.
Yeah. So what do you think Dan's plan here is from this point? Now he's got the turtle going, but he's without the crowdfundings, so he's not under. Hernando Cortez is not really going to do much for the rest of the game. Really, you're low on credits, and then you already have the ice rezzed. I think you have an opportunity to purge here at some point, Josh?
Yeah,
Are you looking to do that at some point?
I actually don't know that I care about the purge. The deck has CVS. He can get through HQ. There's nothing really in there that I care about. Hard hitting's off the table, but he can't get through the sandstone currently. Maybe if he like runs a couple more times, gets sandstone down, but even then, like running and bouncing off sandstone when you have CVS in the deck, or you can just purge, it's such a tempo loss for the runner. You know, whether it's Nexus or like Rozeki Drip, this Titan deck is just too fast, right? And especially since I kind of slowed him down a little bit with the hard hitting. My draw hasn't been kind because I don't have fast advanced pieces in hand. But as long as I can score out those final 2 points, I'm not super concerned about his rig.
I mean, you mentioned about the draw that you've been having here. I mean, there's only been one Atlas seen so far, and it's been by Dan. So,
right? Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Winning a Titan game by scoring out without Atlas is difficult. I don't think I quite do it. I think I win the game with Atlas, but I'm not sure. I did fast advanced GFIs.
Spoiler, Josh.
Huh?
Oh, come on. Like, spoiler.
Yeah, spoilers, right? Yeah, I lose this game, everybody. It's awful.
Well, it looks like you have a dedication ceremony and an archive memory in hands.
Yeah, that's the other bit of influence that we forgot about.
Yeah, there you go. There's an archive memories as well.
Yeah.
So
that's super helpful, especially if like they get through and they trash your reconstructions, or if you get Ed Kimmed or any other Stargated, and you just lose pieces. It's a good thing to have.
Right. A lot of times what I use it for actually is boom. Like if they can't clear the tags, they'll try to like run your hand and like trash your kill pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And just like archive memories boom is just a great way to close the game.
So Dan, you ended up killing Dan's turning wheel, right, Josh?
Yeah,
at some point earlier. So
I think in the same turn that he got the Citadel.
Yeah.
So that I think that's pretty much been really the determinant here, because with your BP, I mean, he could just start running HQ and just pile on the counters for free, essentially. So I mean, him. Not so much for the Citadel, but for the turning wheel, I think has really been a critical moment of this game, as it turns out, just because he isn't able to really get by these ice for significant long-term value. It's just short-term gains in terms of just access, but not really getting ahead of you in terms of what cards are being seen. And to me, that just really seems to be guiding the whole dynamic of this game at this point, given that Dan's kind of in prison of sorts, that he's unable to that stack of cards that you have there blocking the agendas that is your R&D. So seems to be what's really in your favor, was the lack of that kind of pressure. So.
Right. And that's definitely, like when you're facing criminal, the main way that they win is either through single access or some sort of turning wheel, right? And getting those tags in with hard-hitting news, clearing the turning wheel, you're just not going to beat Titan with single access. I mean, you can sometimes, but it's not reliable.
Yeah, for sure. So it's pretty nice, though. Afshar, I think Afshar would otherwise be pretty good at triple hostile. How was Afshar on today?
It was great. I think that's actually one change that I made from your list, Zach. So the red level and the Afshar. I was thinking about it for Wu because on HQ they can't break all subroutines, so they can't bounce it.
Right. No, that was a really good call. I really like Afshar, and I think it was a really good decision to include it.
It's a very annoying ice.
Yeah. It actually wasn't my decision. I sent the list to Jonas. He was talking to our team about like last minute changes for the deck. And I think the Afshar was definitely him. I think the deck might have been playing 2. It might be 1. I'm not sure. I think we cut a consulting visit for it.
Yeah. Seems reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Still have the 2 visits remaining afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it does cut down on the consistency of the deck a little bit, but I figure like with this deck, it is kind of YOLO, right? Like you see me on 1 credit right now, and with this deck, you don't really care about being on that low money, like because you've got the 3 too big to fails. Like you can consulting visit it. I don't know.
You have Audacity.
Right? Yeah,
Audacity
1
only
credit
needs
to
the 1
score
credit,
Atlas,
so.
right?
Here.
So if you do end up drawing a second or a third Afshar, do you stack them on HQ or do you just chuck them in the bin? Because do you only want the one, or do you want multiple protecting? Do you care that much about the install costs and then resing them?
I think my ice is like the Afshar in particular. It being 1 strength against turtle doesn't really matter. I'm not sure about how much bad pub I have right now. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 bad pub. It's just very hard for me to tax on ice that isn't sandstone or mossless.
Fair. That's fair. And then in non-crim games, do you stack them on HQ? Like, because I know it's a really good ice on its own.
Yeah. I personally don't really care about HQ too much, unless I have a bunch of agendas or I'm worried about some sort of HQ effect, like an embezzle. Embezzle can be really, really devastating against this deck.
Yeah, because you've got so many operations.
Right. Yeah, he's just running for singles. I think I actually have the game in hand, and he just doesn't see it.
I think his first look was a biotic just now, or his previous look was a biotic. But you're not rich enough to do that, so you must be holding the Audacity.
I think so.
You're just tucking your head, like praying, like please don't take the Atlas.
That's this whole deck, right? Like, please, just don't take Atlas. Just don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, just hitting the hand just doesn't seem like it's going to be as just trying to dig for another copy of Turning Wheel if he has one. But maybe Dan doesn't have more than 1 copy of Turning Wheel. Do you guys know?
No, he has it. It's on the board right now. That was actually this whole turn was him trying to build up those counters.
All right, fair enough. These alternate arts are getting.
So it's an alt art Turning Wheel. So it looks a little bit different. It's right next to Nisei. That yeah. So there's the Audacity.
Came too late.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's exactly it, right? Like, if Turning Wheel is your multi-axis, trashing the first one, not being able to build up soon enough, Titan's just gonna fast advance out the win.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks.
I'm gonna get that one done.
I mean, thanks for sending me the decks, man. They might not be yours originally, but yeah, I mean, we both did pretty well in the Nisei Standard Tournament, so I told my team I pretty much wanted to run the same decks back for this event.
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty powerful decks, and if you benefit from some decent draws and decent matchups, then definitely you're well positioned with them. That is concerned, I think. So going into this next game, what is Dan's identity here? That he's on Blue Sun? Is that right?
That's a good question.
You gotta wait for him to move his arm so we can see.
That is an alt art Polana, I think from the New York Regional a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. Yeah, 3 years ago because we didn't have one 2 years ago, so it's the second one that we've had in the past, but skipping a year. So 2016 regional. We had someone actually got one of the Netrunner artists to create that alt art Polana. I remember that being a big deal without knowing why it was a big deal. But so he's on Polana.
Well, great. I'm glad I have me through these alternate arts, and I'm just completely unfamiliar with them.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this matchup, Josh, as far as it goes between Polana specifically, but more more generally speaking, these decks that end up happening?
Yeah, I think Glacier, unless they get a really fast start, is pretty good for the Wu deck because you can get set up, and if you bounce big ice, that's hugely impactful. Without MTI in the game to kind of like put stuff in your face, or like you bounce an ice and they put it right back, being able to bounce an ice and it stays gone until at least the next turn, and they spend another 8 credits in the case of Anansi or DNA Tracker, is pretty good for you. One thing I am a little scared of is if you drop Scarcity against the Wu deck early, getting set up as Wu is actually very, very difficult. The game becomes easy once you're set up, but sometimes if Scarcity hits you or they ice all centrals with like really cheap ice, Dan said he was running 3 Aiki. And let's say he's spending influence on Punitive, right? It can get a little dicey. So I think that's my main concern, is getting set up fast and making sure I don't get Punitive. But with Turning Wheel, right, you can enable, hopefully, that you can kind of do the best thing against Punitive. Spend the counters when you want to spend them, so you win the game before you enable yourself to be at risk for double Punitive.
Sure. Now, not to spoil anything, but are you on Surfer in this deck?
Yeah, so that's
This,
another change that unfortunately I didn't make. I was finding Surfer is really good against the huge Sports Metal ice towers, but once I got that point, even spending 2 credits per ice was a lot, and I kind of needed to race them or win off centrals before that happened. So I think I'm spending the influence on career fairs to kind of get through the early game a little bit faster. That was a change that Jonas suggested, and putting Palangi in the deck. So it gives you like a pseudo Surfer effect, because it's cost 1, it pressures them to purge, and you can get yourself through multiple ice before your full rig is really set up.
Gotcha.
Also, Scavenge is in the deck, which is really good for Palangi, and just like wooing out a breaker and then scavenging it.
Yeah, Scavenge has a really nice synergy with Wu.
Yeah.
Down with that. Now I notice you're playing an alternate art Wu here. I do recognize that one. That's the I think Dan B.
Yeah, Dan B's Nest
is he responsible
Runner.
for that? Yeah, I do recognize that one.
I actually wasn't familiar with it until this day. Now, Ethan, he actually is missing some of the packs, and he's missing 419. I was supposed to bring it for him, but I forgot. So we see him, and it's 419 Amoral Squawker.
Right.
And it was just, it was written. So we purchased those alt arts and also a Cockadoodle Woo.
Nice.
So
it looks like you're progressing not too badly here, but Dan looks to have a pretty good setup here going with the hedge fund, 4 ice, and already committing to the remote with double advancement here.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, he's playing this right. He knows what the Wu deck is doing. He knows what I'm doing. And he's just trying to go as fast as possible, which is exactly what he needs to do. Now, I'm going to have a long discussion with Ethan and Alex right now about how to best do this. And both of them, and I think Zach actually does the same thing really, really well. And I think this is the most skill-intensive part of the Wu deck, is knowing when to either set up or when to introduce a little bit of risk into the game and poke. Force them to get poor, force them to res ice. Thinking about the Wu deck as a denial deck, right?
Yeah, definitely framing it in that kind of at some point at least changing gears into that kind of try and make it a denial game. Certainly has a benefit to the late game that Wu wants to get to. So it's definitely easiest to jack out if they don't ever get to res their ice to begin with. So that's nice. So
Right. And this was their suggestion, is like he install advance, get set up. The next turn he's going to have to spend those 3 credits to score out whatever this was. In this case, it was a future perfect. So now you can poke. So we're talking about where exactly to run, and I think the call is R&D. And you say he gets a look on his face, and you just know that ice costs 8. And whenever that is the case, and they don't have 8 credits, you just run the heck out of it, especially with turning wheel, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, just take the credits when you can, for sure. And that money is just so important for getting the breaker, because once you have the breaker installed, it just becomes so much easier installed to just deal with the stuff. So that Kikugo, now there's a vulnerability for you right there. That Kikugo is going to be a vulnerability unless Dan addresses it. It looks like it might be some time before he can address it. So yeah, so now he has 2 vulnerabilities that can be eventually exploited for sure with Ankusa and just not having enough money to res the R&D ice.
And that's exactly part of this deck, right? Like pressuring them to go a little poorer than they want to. Res ice, especially ice like Kikugo that you can either bounce off of or just let it end the run and just go somewhere else, right?
For sure. But this, have you seen Dan's deck in action? Are you going in somewhat blind as to what he has, and you just uncover what he has as it progresses, or do you have some idea of what kind of Piranha it is, whether or not it's punitive and more spiky, or if it's just ice and trying to tax out and going for just scoring out more so?
I have no idea. In fact, I didn't really see a bunch of influence. I'm fearing Piranha, but mostly it's just me asking my teammates, asking like, what's the worst thing that could happen here? Do I open myself up to that risk? And I take a lot of risks this game. You see me running R&D. I'm really like looking at his face and seeing how much do I think your face is telling me this ice costs.
Of the benefits of IRL.
Yeah. Playing Netrunner in person introduces that kind of thing. And now you see me get the lamb down, and exactly like Zach was talking about, it has 1 strength, and Kusa can just bounce it up.
It looks like you only have 4 programs. So I'm guessing it's just Ankusa.
Yeah.
No lamb
Yeah.
yet?
Yeah, it's 3 Au revoir and an Ankusa that are down.
Good spot to be for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
On
open HQ, 8 counters on turning wheel. I mean,
a gazillion credits.
and presumably that's an NGO and a remote. So, I mean,
And you see me just run it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like part of the risk, right? And there it's NGO. So I say, like, what's the worst that can happen? I've got a clone chip. I can kind of recover. I've got the woo ability.
but what is the worst that could happen? I mean, if he actually commits to resing a remote ice there, he leaves his central still undefended, and he spent the money that he otherwise try and redevelop. So, kind of a win-win scenario for you. If he reses, then to those centrals, and if he doesn't res, then there's nothing lost. I mean, you just get to check for free, right?
Mhm.
So pressure, sure.
Right. And that's exactly it, Zach. That's exactly why I wanted you on this call, is to just kind of illustrate that, because that's like, it's a very hard place to put the corp in, but if you can do that, that's where this Woo deck really succeeds.
For sure. It just needs that time, because the thing about it is just the clicks, to get installing. So here Dan does have the 7 credits. How much importance are you placing on that remote now? And since he forgoes defending HQ and only has 1 advancement on it, it seems like it's going to be a pretty important agenda here. Looks like he's threatening to go to 5 points. Is that the future perfect plus a Nisei here?
Yeah, and that was and their suggestion was just get set up. Even if he scores a Nisei, you've got a bunch of turning wheel counters. You want to get that other program down. And I think the big limiting factor here for me was memory. I'm full up on memory, so I need an MU source before I can even lay another program down. And the longer the time goes on, the more that he's going to be able to res ice that I can't deal with just Ankusa, right?
Yeah, for sure. But back down to 4 credits, so in another good spot. And the turning wheel is always in the wings. I mean, Dan has to be feeling the pressure there for sure.
But he
Making
can.
HQ exposed.
Dan can use Nisei after turning wheel counters have been spent.
Sure.
Right.
Of course
so,
he
like,
can. Yeah, but the thing about it is then the Nisei counter is gone from any kind of remote defense as well. Josh doesn't need to spend all the counters at once. He can just make it just like a Maker's Eye or a legwork.
That's very true.
Now Beth comes down, or maybe it has been down, but that's another. So now Dan, if he ever gets up to, above, up to 15 credits or higher, to try and res these big ice, then all of a sudden he has to deal with 5 clicks, and that's even faster turning wheel recovery. So, well, here there's still pressuring. So, seems like he's putting you in a tough spot now, Josh, for sure.
Yeah, especially with 0 points on my side. He's threatening the win with a Nisei. His credits are a little bit low. I just don't have that MU source, so I need to draw Yusami, put down the Earthrise. And, all the turning wheel counters in the world aren't really going to do much good if there's like an end the run code gate, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if he's only on 4 credits, you probably just, if nothing else, your last click, like if you can't find something, you're just going to be pressured to actually pressure the remote to try and get some kind of credit drain. Can't score. He has to ETR at the very least. So
Right. I think that's exactly what I do. I run on click 3. There's the net chip and the Palangi. And then with that, I just run the remote on click 3. And then on click 4, if he Nisei's me, I can run again. So there's an Aki. I can only use Palangi once. Now, Ankusa Aki is expensive.
there is. Yeah. What's that? That's 9 credits. So to bounce it.
Right.
That's for sure pretty expensive. Oh.
But it does
so I
not
think
end
I
up
just
wrong.
let it fire. Yeah. Because it doesn't end the run, exactly like you said.
All right, so you're just probably going to spend, 2 credits because you have so much money? How much money do you have? There you go.
I think I just spent 0.
Oh, okay. Nothing important in hand, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lamb. That's kind of important. I've got clone chip, though.
You have the clone chip, so
Yeah.
as soon as you play one more net chip, you're going to be good to go.
Right.
Because that's going to have the 2 MU for the lamb to come into play. So, how did you find net chip compared to Akamatsu? In my own testing, I found that net chip was inferior. Wanting to get to that 2 MU available, like getting to 5th memory, open 2, because of the 3 over was that you can commit to early, and then having 4th and 5th memory open together for the lamb, compared to net chip, which kind of partitions 4 and 5 separately. So did you ever find any kind of tension there that wanted or difficult to that?
So there definitely is a tension. That's a slot machine on HQ, and I think I just let it fire. There definitely is a tension there, but I found that installing one Akamatsu, it's almost like NetChip in that you need 2 of them to install it once for it to actually do anything, right? So if you just install Akamatsu and you've got, I don't know, whatever down, I found that you kind of needed like 2 Akamatsu or like 2 memory sources anyway to kind of get that value. Also with Palangi, it kind of gives you flexibility to do stuff before your whole rig is set up. And you can just woo it out for free because you've got 2 in the deck. And just remove it from game. You don't really care.
Woo out which part?
The Palangi.
Palangi is a virus, isn't it?
Oh, so you can't woo it out. You're totally right. just get it down, I guess, SMC
Did you
or
have
whatever.
Pelongies at the tournament?
I hope I didn't. I'll tell you that right now. I really hope I didn't.
I don't think that Wu can get viruses, right?
Yeah, I think you're
maybe-
totally right. I did install the Plongi in this game from hand. Now, hopefully, people in the comments section can let me know that I am a disgrace and that I...
No, you definitely installed this one from hand. I can't say
Cool.
anything about any others for the rest of the tournament. But this one, you're good on this one.
All right, so he double advances in the remote. I'm fearing I still can't deal with this A key, so I am a little bit limited on cards in hand. So it kind of forces me to win the side game. I've got a Nisei now. So I think there's a huge, long discussion. So sorry, everybody, for people watching. This is going to be a talking point, but we spend a long time to get to the conclusion that Zach just illuminated like 5 minutes ago. He's got an Nisei counter. Go R&D. Just spend some turning wheel counters. Just don't spend all of them. Just spend some of them. I think we spend half. If he goes poor resing in ice or Niseiing you, then you can go the remote, and he doesn't have that resource available to him anymore.
Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, we've seen 2 NGOs. So the odds that this is a third NGO, right, you have to take that into consideration as well, because it's not that far into the game, really, where he's drawn through a considerable amount of his deck. It's still reasonably early. It's only turn 6, 7? No, never mind. That's definitely not true. It's definitely way later than that. This is why I'm silent.
Track? You weren't keeping track of the turns?
I'm definitely not. But, I mean, you can tell. We talked about it earlier, right? Like, he definitely built up his board state super early. He's rushing out agendas and forcing me to go fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I run the remote here.
Mm-hmm.
Running remote seems fine.
Yeah, just let Aki fire.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm hoping to draw some cards.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're putting pressure on his side game, that's still monetary pressure you're putting on there. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Essentially, you spent 1 credit to go through A key there, which is pretty cheap to get as far as quote unquote breaking an ice.
Right.
So just to get through there, and the only valuable cards that you have are the MU cards, right? So.
Yeah, and I actually lose 1 net chip here. Oh, there's border control, and he just pops it.
He has to pop it there, otherwise you Nkusa. So
right. Yep.
He has to pop it. So I mean, you saved money, which is nice. And again, you can just, I mean, at this point, high game, and he's under so much pressure now. You can just use your stack as just a resource. And with 3 credits there, I mean that's a 5-3. Dan can't really afford to spend any credits on the side game and still make the scoring. Say that's left.
So there's Oboe. I think
You Nkusa.
I Nkusa the Aki, which I don't know. It has to be a mistake, but I didn't want to like Nisei. I knew if I Nisei didn't get the side game right and ran back, I wouldn't have the cards in hand to steal Oboe. I think was my decision there.
I think it was the right decision to actually bounce the Aki there, though. And the reason for that, I mean, he's on 3 credits. So if he wants to replay that Iki, it costs him a click, and he still only has 2 credits, or 2 clicks that way. He can gain 2 credits, go to 5 credits. And if he plays Iki anywhere else and doesn't trash an already installed ice, credit to install, and it's still going to cost him a credit to res. And you can always just pressure archives, just keep on and just bounce the Iki back again, or just go through Iki and jack out after the Iki. on an R&D, for instance. So he's going to be under economic pressure no matter where he puts it, making him pick it up there so that he can't immediately pressure another remote play. Also deploying the ice so that if he has ice install the remote, advance the remote, and threaten to score that way. So again, it seems like the right call to bounce it there while he's poor and still under economic pressure on the other servers as well.
Right, and I think that decision is a lot more defendable when he's on 3 credits versus when he's on like 20, right? So you see me run the remote. I try to get a sense of how much that ice costs. He doesn't res it again, so I know it costs like 8 or whatever. He reses
Right.
the I key. I'm pretty sure this is like Rashida, but I don't want to let him have it.
And one final point to your bouncing of Ike there that makes it pretty good is the Nisei counter. So that like you can just go back for free if you were to spend a Nisei counter. Then Ike is no longer there, so there's no longer economic pressure in that respect either. It seems good. Good.
So that's a new card. That's Letico Nisei. So I guess he just like pops it and runs me through Aki again and tries to pressure Oboe. I had the credits available, so I just trashed it.
Yeah, he didn't pop it. He doesn't hit because it's a 1 to res and then a psi game. So I don't think he wants to invest the credits there. I think he let you have it.
Makes you reapproach the server, right? You don't actually have to go back through the Ike.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't. You don't. You're right. You can jack out.
Yeah. So this seems like you've finally gotten ahead of everything. Oh, yep. And there you go.
And then right off the top. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I spend like half the turning wheel counter.
Oh, well done,
just
Josh.
to kind of threaten that Nisei. Thanks,
Good.
man.
I don't even think
That was
you.
well done.
Did you even need to? I think that was just the first card.
It was, but I did. You have to spend the turning wheel counters preemptively, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. So you do end up you spend them, and then it's there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you can make him burn the Nisei counter there, I mean, it's just
Yeah. Then
it's
it's
just
a
so
win
good
no
for you.
matter what. Yeah.
Right.
So that was well played. Well played by both sides. I mean, Dan made a good effort there, and I really felt like he was on the verge of really getting ahead there and really making it putting you in a really bad spot.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really good. Both sides, both games really. I think Dan had some good development on both sides and really did some fine work. And Josh, you played well there, man. Way to go. So
Thanks. I'm gonna put that all on my team. You see me lean over in the video. I pretty much at every step ask them, what should I do? And that's a big part about this format, right? Is that you are on a team. This day was long. It was loud. It was hot. I think it was 8 hours. So having other people there with you that you can bounce ideas off of just makes that so much easier, right?
Yeah.
that sounds. I hesitate to say miserable. So.
I mean, everybody in Netrunner is so cool, right? And so it really makes you appreciate these kind of events. Not every weekend. I took a bus up here, but it was definitely worth it. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, great. A nice finish. You guys got second, and Dan's team ended up winning. So, no worse for wear coming out of that round, it seems.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
congrats to both sides.
Yeah, it was a super close finish. I think it would have been a closer race if the next game that we're going to watch had gone a different way. I definitely made some mistakes there. So regardless of who's on comms for that one, it's going to be an interesting watch to kind of see the downfall of our entire team on my shoulders.
Yeah. And I mean, credit to Dan as well. I mean, his team ended up winning the day, and we just watched the only game where his runner lost for the day, the entire day. He went 4-1 with his runner. So
nice.
his non-Nexus 419 ended up really, really crushing it. It's a shame we didn't get to see that here.
I
Yeah.
think it. I mean, it was just 2 turns, really, right? I mean, otherwise Dan would have. I think Dan would have rolled over that Titan deck if he had been allowed to keep the crowdfundings,
Mm-hmm.
and his turning wheel hadn't been trashed on that 1 turn.
Yeah.
I mean, if even one of those things doesn't happen, Dan might and ended up winning. But the fact that both happened, for him to overcome, it seems. By him on that game to still be pressuring and still be difficult for Josh. I mean, I know Josh, you ended up scoring 3 hostiles, and those are pretty easy to score, and the audacity for the but you know, economically speaking, it still must have been somewhat scary, kind of at the mercy, unable to do anything except the tools to come out, right? So
Yeah, I think he diversioned me once, but I mean, my credit total was so low that if he saw all 3 of them early, it would have stalled the game out enough that he could have definitely made a play.
yeah. So, well, fun game to see. I'm glad to have been here to catch it with you two.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you having me on. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you both for coming on and commenting. I know we're going to have Netjogging back on when we do his other round. I think his opponent is also willing to come on and chat. I know Dan was busy and didn't really want to, but he also does his own thing constantly, like every day he's on.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Dan, right? He streams so many games. Props to Teo for organizing this whole thing, getting us all together, streaming, recording. This means a lot. And, I, for one, am very thankful for you, man. So,
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm happy I had the opportunity to set up the streaming stuff that they had at the venue. Because I was trying to get a feel for if I should bring my own rig in and do my own stuff. And the entire feel was, no, it's way too tight. And then they were like, oh yeah, we have this webcam we used, and we have this rig, this old tower that we have, and so I just had to set it all up and record games on the janky setup. But we got footage, and footage is footage, so I am very happy to have it and very happy to be able to stream some part of this.
Yeah. Well, as a casual viewer, it was nice to see. So I'm glad that you were able to capture it.
Awesome.
So much appreciation for that.
All right. Well, one more time, thank you both for coming on. Thank you both for commenting. We're going to do the rest of the rounds, the other 4 rounds, totally out of order, because that's the way commenting post-recording works. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a good night.